Hey everybody, Isaiah here at Sophos Survival. In this video, we're gonna do an unboxing and complete setup, start to finish, of the Harvest Right large freeze dryer with the premier pump. We're gonna just basically take this thing apart, show you exactly what you get straight from the factory or straight from us as a dealer, and then how to, step by step what to do and how to set that thing up and get it running. Okay, so first things first, this is exactly what you get either straight from us as dealer, or this is how it shows up on the truck from Harvest Right. So you've got the little half pallet there, and then everything comes strapped down to that pallet. You've got the freeze dryer in here, of course, and then this box up here, these are all the accessories. So in there, you're gonna see your vacuum pump, your trays, Mylar bags, oxygen absorbers, all that stuff. This is what it looks like. You should receive it just like this. The box should be pristine. Of course, during shipping, you're gonna see some things get scuff marks on them a little bit. That's normal, but you shouldn't have any big tears or gouges or puncture holes in these boxes. And in fact, before you sign for these freeze dryers, you should inspect it. That's what they tell you to do. Okay, so first things first here, put those bins, and inside this, we have everything we need. Okay, that's what we got. Okay guys, I dropped this down to the fork so it's a little easier to see, but here's everything you get. You get the vacuum pump. Inside this box is one more quart of oil, so you actually get 2 quarts. You get the one that comes in that box, and then they throw in an extra quart of oil. This is the oil filter, that's the heat sealer. There is your power supply, and this, to note, is the large machine requires a dedicated 20 amp circuit, and this it requires what's called a NEMA 520 outlet, and that's the commercial style plug, and it's still a 110, but it's got one of those sideways prongs. So you want to make sure that you get that right, the correct power supply. There's your vacuum hose, a set of 50 oxygen absorbers. You've got your 50 8x12 Mylar bags. That's the standard bag that comes with. One set of trays. For the large, you get 5 trays, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then your manuals and stuff. It's throw in this little pink piece of paper that says, the freeze dryers no longer ship with a black door pad. That's a whole different discussion. They used to come with a black door pad, which is an insulation pad, not required and not included any longer. And then this right here, it says, please contact Harvest Right for all inquiries. So even us as a dealer, for instance, we sell these things just as they come from Harvest Right, but we don't do any service or repairs or anything. If you have an issue, any kind of a problem from the beginning, just contact Harvest Right. They will require your proof of purchase, and then they'll get you set up and work through the repair process or the troubleshooting steps. There is a warranty card that comes with. You can fill that out and send it in. You can also do that online on their website. You get an owner's manual that will walk you through the whole setup process. There is your firmware and troubleshooting guide, and then this is the guide to freeze drying. Okay guys, next step, cut those bands, and this box is lift directly off the machine. Like so. Take it off the Jeep, and you're gonna walk around and make sure that you don't have any damage. Okay, main thing we're looking at just dents and dings and scratches and stuff. There's it's pretty easy to find damage, but this door, I want to make sure that the hinges, everything's looking good on there. One thing to note, that is the drain hose, and that is installed already, so that should be there and in place. And then there's the back of the machine. Everything looks good. All right guys, so here we have it. We've got everything. There's the premier pump, heat sealer, Mylar bags, oxygen absorbers, power supply. There's your vacuum hose, manuals, oil, filter, trays. And inside here, well, just as a note, there's a little sticker on here. Please inspect the shipment now. Just as you open that, make sure that the pump is not damaged and obviously, you know, has any issues with it. There's your extra quart of oil. That's the one I'm going to use to actually just fill up in the first place, and then I'll keep that other one as my spare. And then there is your owner's manual. Okay. So, first things first, I'm going to take this little cap off. This is called the demister. Take that baby off and put this on a flat surface, and I'm just going to start adding oil. So there's a minimum and a maximum level right here. I like to go somewhere between the middle and the max, about 3/4. That will, I mean, so when the pump turns on, it's gonna suck up some of that oil, and you know, as it operates, that level's gonna drop. So I like to throw it around 3/4, and then it drops down to about 1/2 during operation. And it's gonna take about 2/3 to 3/4 of this quart of oil. Okay, that'll work. 3/4 right there. And still have a little bit left in there. Okay, screw the demister back on. So for the purpose of this video, I am just gonna throw this pump on this shelf underneath. Now there's a lot of different opinions out there on where the pump should be. Harvest Right, I spoke to the factory yesterday, and they don't have an official stance on it per se, but they said that the vacuum pumps can go, you know, to the side. They typically won't reach up top unless you have a longer vacuum hose. They can go to the side, they can go underneath. Specifically the oil-driven pumps can go underneath, and then an engineer friend of mine the other day said that you should have the scroll pumps, which is the oil-free pump, either level or above, and then the oil-driven pumps level or below. A lot of hearsay on that. For the purpose of this video, I'm just gonna put it right here, and that's gonna be fine. Okay, so the pump plugs right into the back of the machine. I'm gonna slide that forward. Okay, and the reason why you plug the pump right into the back of the machine is so that the machine can sit there and it can tell the pump when to turn on and off. And then you've got your power cord here. Go from the machine to the wall. Okay, and then notice on this plug with the large unit only, you've got this NEMA 520. It's a commercial grade, commercial style plug. You've got that sideways prong, and the receptacle that's needed over there is the NEMA 520. It's still a 110, but you need a dedicated 20 amp circuit for the large machine. The medium machines could go, it's just a regular standard style outlet, and it's a regular 15 amp. So you don't need to do anything special for the medium machines. Okay, so here is your vacuum hose, and on the pump down here, you're gonna see this little cap. Take a visual down in there, make sure you don't have anything obstructing that, and then this is just gonna screw on here hand tight. The manual says that you can tighten it a little bit extra if you need to. You know, get some channel locks or something, tighten it down a little more. For the purpose of this and just to test the machine itself, I'm gonna go hand tight and not go, you know, with pliers or anything, just to see how it works. Okay guys, a couple things to note here. You wanna reach back and flip on that switch. It's the on-off rocker switch is right there. Make sure that stays on. That way the machine can tell the pump when to cycle on and off. And then right here, this is the gas ballast switch, and that needs to live in the open position. The manual says to leave it there. Don't mess with that. Okay, and then I noticed something really interesting as we go to plug into the machine. Check that out. That happened during shipping. I noticed when I took the box off of the machine, it had kind of scraped the edge, the inside of the box, and so I got a bunch of stuff in here. You want to make sure and clean that out really well, or else that's going to clog up your pump. Those are going to come up. Make sure you don't cross thread it. It kind of goes without saying. Screw it in. Make sure that this is this little part right here is nice and flat as you screw that in. Okay. Hand tight. Okay guys, that's basically it. That's the basic setup. I'm gonna go ahead and kick this baby on. There's a master switch in the back there. Flip that on. It takes it just a minute and it will wake up, initialize, and you'll come to this little home screen right here. There we go. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do, you've probably thought long and hard about this. I'm gonna name my machine. There we go, Sophos Survival. We'll save it. Okay, and then the next thing, I'm gonna hit this little leaf right here, and that's gonna take me into this little functional testing screen. The manual tells you to turn it on. You want the condenser to turn on, so we're gonna hit that little freeze toggle switch. You can hear the condenser kick on, and it's just gonna start cooling this chamber down. There's coils that go all the way around the inside of this, or actually the outside of this chamber, and it's gonna start freezing, and we're gonna leave that on for 30 minutes, okay? After that 30 minutes, we're gonna go in and we're gonna turn the vacuum pump on, and then we'll run the vacuum pump test at that point. All right, guys, I had to go run a little errand, so we're a little over time, but we're at 50 minutes, negative 53 degrees inside. That's chamber temperature, and then the tray, there's a sensor back there in the back that says that the tray rack is 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So we are well below the freezing. And then the next thing it said is turn on the vacuum pump. Okay, it takes a second for that thing to spool up, but that thing will kick on, and then we're gonna let that run for up to 30 minutes. And basically, there you go, you can hear that. Very quiet pump. Right here, you can actually see the pressure dropping rapidly. Oh, forgot to mention, okay, door seal, the door is closed, and that drain valve is closed as well. Okay, so you'll see this thing drop rapidly, and the goal is to get that thing down below 500 millitorr is how they measure pressure. And so that needs to be below 500 millitorr within 30 minutes. And it usually does well beyond, much faster than that. Okay guys, so I came back 14 minutes later, and we're at 342 millitorr and still dropping. So the test is good. It says just as long as you get below 500 within 20 to 30 minutes, you're set. So we're good. Seals are good, pump's good. And what we can do is we can just hit done. It automatically just toggles those off and goes to that home screen. And then that's it, guys. That is the setup. We're gonna do the first batch. So in the manual, it actually says right here in this, you want to run what's called a bread batch. Okay, so what we're gonna do here, I just ran to the store and grabbed a couple loaves of like $1 bread, and we're just gonna fill these trays up, and we're gonna throw it in there, and we're gonna run our first batch with bread in it. And what that does is for one, it tests the system start to finish, the sensors and everything, just to make sure it's working properly. But then also it kind of gets that new car scent out of the machine. This thing is brand new from the factory, and you don't want that, any possible scent or taste going into your first batch of food. So we're gonna do that. Let's load these babies up. There's our bread. Okay. Gonna hit start. And so what this does, when you run your first batch, it's actually gonna prompt you and ask you what type of pump you have. We have the Premier pump. And then what that does is it sets in, basically it'll kind of give you some pre-programmed alerts as far as like, hey, every 15 batches, every 20 batches, you change the oil, stuff like that. And then also the programming changes a little bit per the software for the pump. Okay, so we got that selected. Tells us to load the food into the freeze dryer and close the drain valve. Okay, so that's done. we have loaded the food into the freeze dryer. Close that handle. It's a 2-stage handle, so just make sure that's closed nice and tight. And then it tells us to close the drain valve. So just a quick little note on this, if that handle is parallel to this hose, then it's open. You want to make sure and close it like that so that it's perpendicular 90 degrees from the hose, and that is closed. So make sure that's done nice and tight. Come back over here and boom, we hit continue. That's it, freezing. So that's the first stage in the process. Basically, as a quick rundown, freeze drying the name kind of comes from the process. So what the machine is gonna do is it's gonna freeze this thing as long as it needs to. There's a sensor in the back of the chamber there that says, all right, the food is down to the proper temperature that it needs, which is in the negative. It's like -10 or -20 degrees. I don't know exactly, but once the sensor says, all right, it's cold enough, then it will kick on the vacuum pump and it'll freeze. There's another, the next stage is called vacuum freezing. So it'll freeze for a little while longer under vacuum pressure, and then it will go into the drying stage, where if you can see these little orange pads underneath each of these trays, those are the heating elements, and those will kick on and slowly ramp the temperature of the food up. And then as the food slowly warms up, those water molecules, it gets warm enough to release those molecules, and the vacuum pump is sucking those molecules out, and it's a process called sublimation. So it's taking those molecules from a solid straight to a gas. It sucks them out and then freezes them to the inside of that chamber. So you'll notice a block of ice will start to form on the inside of this chamber here. And that's it. So that's why they call it freeze drying. And then after the drying stage, you'll go and it'll do what's called a final dry, and that's where the sensor just sits there and says, all right, it's done, it's completely dry. It kicks off, and then that's when the process is complete. You go, you open the drain valve, pull your food out, test it, make sure it's dry, and then go ahead and package it up. Okay guys, boom, done. So this finished in the middle of the night last night while I was at home. I came into work this morning and it had been sitting there. So the total cycle time took 12 hours and 44 minutes. Right now, the chamber is at -32 degrees. And so that brings up a good point. What happens with the machine is if it finishes in the middle of the night while you're sleeping or gone, while you're gone for the day working or running errands, it will go into, I don't know what the technical term for it is with Harvest Right, but I call it suspension mode. So it stays under vacuum pressure and it stays frozen so that your food doesn't get ruined or start thawing out while you're gone. The machine doesn't just turn off. I've actually left the machine like this for 2 days before, and it's turned out just fine. So that's it. Basically what we'll do now is I'm gonna actually select no defrost, because I'm not gonna use the machine again for a little while. If you want to use the machine right away, you can hit defrost, and basically what it does is it tells you to, take your food out and close the door, open the drain valve, and it'll actually turn on those heating elements and warm up that chamber so that it melts quicker, so that you can throw food in again right away. If it's gonna be overnight or the next day or whenever until you put in the next batch, you don't need to do the defrost mode. You can just hit no defrost, leave that door open with the drain valve open, and it will just kind of do its thing on its own. So right now though, I'm going to open that drain valve. And by the way, as far as setup, it's a good idea to throw like a bucket. If you don't have a drain right there below, throw like a 5-gallon bucket or something underneath there, but don't let that hose sit in the end of the water. If there's water in the bottom of the bucket and you open that drain valve, it's gonna suck that water up into this hose and go into your machine, which you do not want. I make it a practice to make sure that that bucket stays emptied. If there's water in there, I pour it out between each batch. Now that that pressure is released, we can open this up, take our trays, and look at this bread. I mean, bread is different than a lot of, it's already kind of crumbly, but that bread is nice and freeze dried, and it's nice and crispy and crunchy, and you can see that there's no more moisture left in that. So I would say that was a very successful run, and now our machine's done, guys. It's ready for use. Okay guys, so that's it. Very, very simple. Honestly, it's pretty much plug and play. There's a little bit more effort to the oil-driven pump. you got to pour oil in it. That's about it. The oil-free pump is even easier than that. So honestly, the setup, as you can see, is very simple and easy. And a couple of things to just review here. You've got all of these manuals. You've got the owner's manual, which basically talks you through the whole setup. Read the manuals, all of them. It's worth the time to go through and just familiarize yourself with the machine. That way, when or if something happens, you know, have a little bit of background. There's that firmware troubleshooting guide. So, by the way, if there's an issue or an error that pops up during the freeze drying process, there's a little sensor back in there. If something goes wrong, the machine is actually programmed to try to correct that issue. So for instance, say there's a freezing error or there's something wrong with the vacuum, it will try to fix that, and if it can't fix it on its own, after a certain amount of time, it will come up with a little error code and tell you that, you know, you need to reference this troubleshooting guide, and there's different error codes and everything. You can just look that up. A little note about that, as a dealer, we sell these machines and you get the same thing exactly like you would from Harvest Right, same warranty, same everything. But as dealers, we don't deal with any issues, any service or troubleshooting. That is all done directly through Harvest Right. So if you have a question, if you have an issue, you know, of course, you can reach back out to us as a customer. We always appreciate and love to hear feedback. But anything official, if you actually need help with the machine, beyond just some basic questions, contact Harvest Right directly. They prefer that, and they tell us as dealers to just have everybody go directly to them, and then they can work through the process with you. So they can actually there's a little USB port on the side here. If there's an issue, you can actually download the log files, put it on a thumb drive, put it on your computer, and email that to them if you're not close by, and they will take it and analyze it, and they can actually tell a lot of the issues, you know, what's wrong with the machine through that data. So that's a really handy little thing. But other than that, guys, yeah, there's the firmware guide. There's that guide to freeze drying. Honestly, this is a good little reference, and it tells you the basics about the freeze dryer and what works, what doesn't. It's not an extensive guide. It's not I wouldn't even call that a book. It's kind of a manual. And really the best resource is online. There's tons of really great Facebook groups, YouTube channels, you know, a lot of info out there, but this is just a basic one. And then there's the guide to your pump. So like I said, go through and read those. All right, so there you have it. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate you watching. If you like the video, interact with us. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, hit that bell so you get the future videos that we put out. We really, really appreciate you helping us get out there and share this kind of info. Hope you guys have an amazing day, and we'll catch you on the next video.